What is up? This is your LA in a minute, and I'm here in North Hollywood at a train depot constructed in 1896 because I just found out that Los Angeles had the largest electric railway system in the world as recently as 1914. What? Let's get into it. I mean, look, this is the map that blew my mind. By 1914, there were already over 1,000 miles of track and more stops then than there are freeway exits now. I mean, how did this all develop? You got to remember that in 1869, Los Angeles had only been a town for 19 years and it barely had 5,000 people. The main transport for goods and shipping at the time was ox cart and wagon. But along came Robert Whitney, Benjamin Wilson, and Phineas Banning, who founded the East Los Angeles and San Pedro Railroad line to connect the ports to the city. By 1870, the railroad was offered to Southern Pacific as part of their transcontinental line to Los Angeles, which upon completion in 1876 marked the Los Angeles transformation from small, isolated agricultural town into a prominent world metropolis. Soon there was a northern route through the San Fernando Valley and an eastern link to Texas connecting through Pomona. As local routes were extended, new towns and cities started to emerge. The railroads were not only the cause of the population boom, but the physical location of the line served as the basis for new settlements. Private developers completed the first electric lines to promote real estate in places that were previously difficult to reach. Alhambra, Arcadia, Burbank, Claremont, Covina, Fullerton, Gardena, Glendale, Hollywood, Inglewood, Lankershim, Toluca, Redondo Beach, South Pasadena, Watts, and Whittier are just some of the towns that formed in Los Angeles around these railway stops. Second Street Cableway developed in the mid-1880s to connect even more parts of the city. And the first electric railway, built in 1887, facilitated the sales of a real estate tract on Pico Street and set off another boom. In 1898, real estate tycoon Henry Huntington purchased the entire system. At its height, the system contained over 20 streetcar lines, 1,250 trolleys, and almost 1,500 miles of tracks. These trains were an essential amenity in navigating Los Angeles. Growth of the electric streetcar and the population boom were happening so fast that map makers could not keep up with all the new stops on these electric railways. These lines encouraged the growth of single-family home subdivisions and enabled new residents to live further from the city center and take trains to work and to services downtown. So there were the Southern Pacific red cars, the LA Railway yellow cars, which again, from 1914 to 1925, provided the greater LA metropolitan area as the largest railway system in the world. But we all know what came next and happened to squeeze out the railways. By 1953, ridership had dwindled so much that Pacific Electric sold its remaining red cars to a private bus line. And though it may have just been a natural evolution of transportation in LA, some say the demise came from something much more sinister. But we'll find out in part 2. All right, LA, it's been a minute.